Hello, friend. Welcome to Almost Cancelled. I'm Peter, that is Connor. We are going to talk about Mr. Robot Season 3, Episode 2. It's called EPS 3.1 underscore undo dot GZ, or GZ, if you don't like the pronunciation of Z. Uh, but yeah, so this is episode 2. Full spoilers for the episode as we do. Much like last week, we have taken notes down. We're going to go through it scene by scene, give thoughts and feelings, and possibly interpret the meaning of smiley faces, and
or a lack of smile.
or a lack of smile. Uh, yeah, better emoji movie than emoji movie. I didn't see the emoji movie, admittedly, because why would I do that to myself? But
I'm pretty confident that you were right in saying that.
yeah, I feel confident. I feel confident. Do you know what? I'll tell you this. It's harder to take notes when it's like a really quick montage of, because the opening of this episode is
Mm.
like it keeps repeating days, and it's going through all these quick events, and I'm like, okay, how do I write this down? Uh, Twin Peaks, when we did notes for that, Lynch is a very sort of slow scene style. Everything's very. This is the one scene. This is almost its own little short film, and you take it all in. And it's very slow paced.
And
Whereas,
you spend 3 minutes watching someone sweep a floor.
and you do that. Interesting enough, we just got a comment on that episode this week, but just theorizing what that actually meant, rather than just let's make fun of the audience because they're sitting watching a floor being swept for. Now I'm not going to go into it because spoilers for a start, but you
Yeah,
should.
yeah.
But
I'll go back and have a look.
I'll tell you off air. But I just thought it was interesting that months later we got a comment about the floor sweeping scene. We need to talk about the floor sweeping. This is an important scene of the show. So yeah, let's get into it. So Mr. Robot. So yeah, we start with this extended sort of series of sequences of Elliot going to work
Yeah.
at E Corp, at Evil Corp, where he has now got a job. Our one glimpse of Angela the entire episode is her just kind of walking back with us, walking across with a smirk on her face, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Elliot, look at you working, proud of you."
Yeah, it feels like such a tease, doesn't it?
Yeah, I actually kind of like how this, because last episode we didn't have Dom and the FBI. This episode we do. Last episode we had lots of Angela. This episode we get this one brief glimpse.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem to shift focus. We didn't even get any Irving or Tyrell this week, but we did get Joanna, who we didn't get last week. Won't be getting much of her following
No.
weeks, admittedly, either. But so I like that it seems a bit more focused. 'Cause I think, see, you described this season so far. I know it's only 2 episodes. We got 8 more to go, so it's maybe a bit early to give a proper comparison. But just after 2 episodes, I think we love season 2 because we thought the direction got better. We thought the filmmaking was better. The handling of moments was better. But arguably, it is a bit weaker than season 1 in terms of just the focus of what was going on. It's
I
been a
think
bit.
that's fair.
Yeah.
It's arguably maybe a touch bloated, and
Yeah.
it's actually that's the reason why these episodes are shorter. Part of that, like last year, they were all like an hour long plus. Whereas now they're mostly like 45 to 50. And part of that in an interview he said was, yeah, he's heard the criticisms of it felt like it was bloated, so he's made a conscious effort to cut down. Plus, it made it easier for scheduling because they could stay on track because they didn't have as much to shoot for every episode.
I appreciate the sentiment of him like saying, okay, right, okay, we're a bit bloated, let's cut it down, pare it down, and get it done. So season 3, compared to those first 2, I feel like it's the tighter storytelling of season 1 with the better direction of season 2. Kind of, at least so far, 2 episodes
Yeah,
in, I feel like there's a new level of confidence. And season 2 already felt very confident. Like it wasn't lacking in that. But this already feels like, oh no, everything is, it's evolving. Sam Esmail's learning as a creator, and we're at this point now where things are feeling tight. They're also feeling well directed, and the story beats are really hitting hard. So
yeah, get the best of both worlds.
So, we start with this, like I say, this montage of him coming into work, and we see it repeatedly. Him popping his pills in the morning. He's got medication, and he's taking a nice clean shirt out of the new box, and he comes into work. He gets to Subway, and the second time, like the first time, it sort of pans around inside the train car, and it's just everyone doing their own thing. But then the second time we see it, they've all got these big smiley emoji heads, and the different expressions, like the ones that are hugging and kissing. They've got the little love heart ones, and there's one that looks a little bit ill, and he's got the big green head that looks kind of sick. And it gets to Elliot, of course. Pans right round to him. And he's just got the straight mouth one. No smiles. Just
I don't think he did. I think it was just completely blank. I don't think there was a smile at all.
Well, there was eyes.
There was eyes, but there was no mouth.
Well, regardless,
that's how blank it was.
The point being, though, it was blank. It was expressionless. Though, I think the idea of him starting to see the world in emojis, or maybe not that he just sees the world in emojis, but he is critiquing the world because the emotions that they portray are kind of stock and not feeling real. Can I get into his whole how he analyzes the world differently, how he sees it differently, like the idea of everyone just sort of being slaves to the system and needing their routines and needing their incomes and their the luxuries, all this stuff.
Yeah, and that kind of plays into, he's kind of leaning into that as we go through this montage. We see him buying a TV and buying a nice little lamp.
He buys a nice little lamp. That's correct. And he's watching his new TV, and it's kind of like he's trying to be a part of that world, and he's sort of like comparing it to them because he sees them as emoji heads because they're not that deep to him. And then it gets to him, and we see that he's just kind of expressionless. It's kind of wonderful. But yeah, so he's at work, and he talks about how, okay, he can't exactly fix exactly what he did to E-Corp, but he can help them rebuild it quicker and protect it better than anyone else can, because he's Elliot, so he knows what he's doing with the computers, but mostly because he understands what actually happened and what might happen in the future.
Yeah, he knows what the plan is, so he can actually take active steps to prevent it.
Yeah, so in terms of the official, so there's two ways here he's doing this. One is the official actual channels where he's actually devised this is what they should do, rather than moving everything to one building which can be blown up. He makes a presentation. There's a PowerPoint pitching to his boss. Oh, we should have it all separate buildings, but they all digitize individually, and that way it's not all just one thing that could go wrong. If one goes wrong, then there's still others,
backups, essentially.
All that kind of thing. But we see this bureaucracy, and we see this kind of uncaring from the higher ups, because his direct boss is like, I've got a Goo Goo Dolls concert to go to, so we'll maybe pick this up later. So then Elliot, in the unofficial way, does what he does best. He turns to his superpower, which is he hacks the guy, finds out that he's doing something illegal, and informs the FBI, and he gets carted off through the lobby. And this actually ties into the repetition, because then he does it again. He goes to the, so he's out the picture, higher up, and we get this other guy who seems to care even less. He's like, oh, we'll pick this up next quarter. I'm late for a spin class or whatever he said.
Yeah. Just rinse and repeat.
Yeah, and it's just the same thing. He's like, oh, well, he was even easier. He's dodging emission numbers. He's cooking the books.
Yeah,
so
it was
he's
basically the VW emissions scandal from last year.
So he's out the door. So it was eventually the third person he got to. It was the woman executive who was quite high up in the food chain. Who was like, oh, this is a good idea, Elliot. And I love that he's equally expressionless.
He's shocked that it's like, wait, this worked?
Yeah, he just stands there. He's got the same blank look in his face as he would have if she'd shot him down.
Yeah,
it's kind of beautiful. It's Elliot being Elliot. But you've got all this, and you've got I want to point out here so he's finally got this going, but while he's stalling for time in between, he's also hacking in and manipulating the delivery routes and sending the information and all the boxes of all the backup documents to
back where it came from.
So back where it came from. He sends it to the wrong place, and it goes back where it came from. And he's it's basically just Elliot, and this all happens very quickly. There's a lot to take in. Like I said, this was a hard thing to take notes down for because it was just firing through things. But it was basically, so Elliot's kind of got something to focus on again, and I think that's something that comes up when we get to sort of the next couple of scenes, is that him having something to focus on is kind of him at his healthiest almost, even if he's doing things that he shouldn't be to achieve what he's doing, but he's still kind of playing hero as he's doing it.
I think this is where it gets really interesting, because he starts talking about, well, okay, E-Corp's kind of maybe here to stay, So let's clear out all the bad people, essentially. It's like, right, all those who are tax frauds, all the sexual harassers,
Because he
all of
also
them
says
out.
it's a necessary evil, perhaps, than just an evil to be extinguished. It has to be adapted. Kind of
Yeah.
go back to last week when we were talking about how, if society is the problem, we can't just erase society and start again. We have to fix
It
it.
felt very much like, he wants to change from within the system instead of just destroying the system.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just me looking for things a bit too much, but it really felt like, yeah, almost like a Brexit argument to me, where it was like, it's like, yeah, we can leave and just let it all burn, or we could try and, fix it from inside and make it better.
I can see it. I don't know if that was necessarily the specific intention, but it applies to
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so one thing to point out here when he's talking about cleaning out the trash and he's doing this, he's looking at a Reddit page.
Mm.
This Reddit page exists. You
Of
can
course
go,
it does.
you can go look at it. It's been there for a couple of years,
Of
and
course.
there's posts on it that were like hinting at things that happened in this episode that are dated as like 2 years ago. Uh, Primarily, the one that I noticed was the like people being carted down the lobby by the FBI. Like, oh, someone from the 33rd floor has been taken out by the FBI, kind of thing.
Of course.
Insanity, crazy stuff. Uh,
That's amazing.
Do you know, I've actually wrote down third superior's the charm. That was the sentence I wrote down for when he succeeds.
That's good.
There. So yeah, did it also big key thing here is that when he's giving his whole speech about Evil Corp, he says maybe like he talks about him naming it Evil Corp. That was like his psyche doing that, and then it like glitches back to E Corp,
Yeah,
and then I think he actually calls it E Corp next time he says it as well.
he does. He does. Yeah.
So interesting.
There was something, I don't know if I just imagined it, but by the time I got to the end, I was like, I swear his password has gotten longer. Like every time we see him enter it, it feels like at first it doesn't feel that long, and then by the end it feels like it's really long, and it feels like it's like his psyche is kind of getting more secure as he kind of gets into the routine.
Yeah, I didn't notice that, but yes, if that's true, that's a good catch.
Yeah.
So it ends, of course, we get to the title screen because it ends with him, as he finishes his speech, he walks past, literally garbage being thrown in a dumpster. The idea that he's taking out the trash. Like, that is literally happening. Also contrast because it starts off, the whole montage starts with him walking past the same area and there's like trash everywhere. So it's, it's just, again, it's the whole visual metaphor, it's the whole thing. So yeah, and somehow we got through all that and did not mention the asshole co-worker who's sitting next to him, who seems to want to do nothing but talk about ladies and how much of a Casanova he is. With
It
them.
annoys me that we don't see him fired.
Yeah, because he specifically mentioned sexual harassment. Surely this guy's crossed that line. It feels like he has.
You feel like that he must have. Yeah.
I don't know. But yeah, again, talking about how this is season 1 and 2 kind of mixing together. All this hacking the other people to like take them down. This was very season 1 Elliot.
Yeah.
Very season 1.
It was because that's how the show opened.
But of course, he comes back into work after the post title, and it's all noisy like it was before. But then all the sound drowns out, and it suddenly gets very quiet, and he's there on his own, and the music kind of comes in, and it's very sad. And he's like, "Well, why am I not okay?" And we see him at home watching his new TV with his new lamp on, and he's like crying in the corner. He's lonely.
Yeah, it's just brutal.
And it's kind of like kind of going back to how he's kind of always felt, that he's always felt like an outsider, or even just the idea that people, even if you're in a large group, you can still feel very alone. The idea that he's part of the system, but he's kind of just another number now. And this comes up a little bit later when he talks about how he misses being a part of something important. It's like, even though we know he's doing important things, like he's kind of saving the company from within, as easy as he can do it, but he feels very alone now. And also, even at this point, I was thinking, does he miss Mr. Robot in a weird way? Like,
Yeah, he hasn't got
around.
anyone to talk to anymore. Especially as we know from some conversations later, this is about 5 weeks since the first episode, and he's not speaking to Darlene. We barely see him interact with Angela, so we assume that's not really happening.
Yeah, at least not to any great extent. Yeah.
Yeah. So he's kind of just got no one anymore.
Yeah, music was very good in this scene. I loved the sad music that was playing during all this. And of course, he takes more medication, and I love that he stands in front of his bathroom mirror.
Oh,
and
I know.
And it's shattered. It's broken apart. It's like okay, it's a bit on the nose, but I love it. Like his psyche's shattered, and you
Yeah.
just see parts of the reflection all split up, and it's him. And then of course it cuts back to him, and he's got another emoji head, but this time it's a little tear
Yeah, it's
one,
the cry emoji.
the cry emoji. And I like that. He sees himself in that context. He's like, yes, I'm. It's almost like, I mean, going back in some of the earlier bullshit I said about what the emojis mean, it's almost like he's just trying to process how other people actually feel, because he's not used to actually kind of dealing with these
Yeah, he
emotions.
talks about it being, like a 2D emotions. They're just
Yeah.
surface level, but it's just the way you can see that he can see them. Whereas Elliot's very hard to read.
Yeah, I think he even finds it difficult to read himself.
Yeah, definitely.
So this is him just kind of going, I think I'm sad, but sad emoji
Yeah.
face. So yeah, works really well. So we go to the first therapy scene of the episode with Krista. Now she's in her home office, interestingly, and she says that because of what's going on, like whoever owned the building before that her office was at, like she can't work there anymore, so she's working from home. And I thought this was an interesting little touch because the entire scenes, both scenes with her in this episode, one of the key differences that I felt I noticed was that they've got a different tone and vibe than they have done in the past. And not just,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, I think being in her home is a part of that, but I think that's just like another sign of it rather than what's causing it. It's this idea that he's more open with her now, so it's actually got more of a sort of personal, inviting tone. So the fact that they're actually in her house and it's like more personal in that sense also kind of works together. They kind of jive as a sort of thematic thing.
Yeah,
Because
that works for me.
yeah, because they openly talk about Mr. Robot now, and obviously we'll get to the big scene later, but the fact that in this scene here he tells her this old childhood story, like compare it to season 1 episodes with the pair of them in the therapy room, her office. But like compare it to that where it was all still very quick cut and he was still narrating over the whole thing. There is no narration in this scene at all.
No, not at all. It's very much just we are actually having a conversation with her.
Yeah.
He's actually engaging with her. He's not engaging with us and just ignoring her.
Yeah, exactly, and on top of the idea as well that we talked about how the opening scene is this big montage. It's like cutting through several days, like as weeks and weeks of time are passing. Probably those 5 weeks that we talked about. It's probably those 5 weeks are in that opening montage, more or less.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, and then that's so quick, but then it gets to here and it slows right down. It's like, no, we're going to stop. We're going to have the conversation. We're going to have the pauses, the silences, the awkwardness between the lines, and all those different things. And like it really works to make it feel like it's more of like he is kind of at a point where he wants to open up. He wants to get, even he doesn't really know how to, but he's trying the best he can.
Yeah,
And
that's it, isn't it? He just doesn't know what to do, and I think that's how desperate he is. He's actually choosing to come for help. It's not, he has to do this. He's not just, I'm here, but I'm here physically, but not mentally, because he was always done to us. He's made this choice to go and talk to her.
And he forgot his birthday.
Yeah,
Because she
as,
brings
as you do.
She brings it up, and as soon as she said it, I'm like, he didn't remember that.
He has no idea. Yeah,
Yeah, Kirsty's like, oh yeah, like I guess that's today. I guess that's my birthday. I think he says that in his head, admittedly. So it's not
Yeah, it
entirely
is,
no narration, but there's no talking to us about what her life is or talking about what's going on. It's just
not until after he leaves
yeah,
is when he properly talks to us again.
yeah, it's really just if he does talk in his head in the scene, it is just about what she's just said. It's just a reaction to that, and not
Yeah,
about external things. So this is where we find out he's not been speaking to Darlene in weeks, and the reasoning for it, the reason why he's avoiding her, is because he thinks she might trigger Mr. Robot, which is an interesting idea, and it makes some sense because it's their father. They're both connected to the same past, all that kind of thing. And Kirsta basically like hits on what I was already thinking. She kind of asks like, "Are you happy?" And he says yes, but you don't believe him, and she doesn't believe him. And I kind of like that about the scene, is that we're both kind of in sync with her, because she like immediately goes, "All right, okay, asking him for honesty didn't work. I have to just ask the question: do you miss
Yeah.
him?" Or she doesn't even say do you. She says, "You miss him, don't you?" Like she knows. She doesn't even have to ask.
yeah. It goes back to that. He even said to us, that he feels lonely again. When he was crying, it's the return of the loneliness, and this is it. He's lost a part of him. But it's not. It was someone he would talk to. It was always someone there.
It makes me wonder, actually. You know how, like, Mr. Robot came back just before season 1 started? That was sort of the regenesis of him. I wonder if, like, before that, it was kind of like it was now, where he still came out, but it wasn't at the same time.
Interesting.
You know, like, did he still come out at night, you know, after he slept and things like that? Like, what was he still in there in that capacity? I have no idea. I
Maybe.
can't give you an answer, but that's an interesting question. Um, so, it mentions missing. It misses being important, being a part of something bigger. And again, it just ties into like not feeling like he's, you know, like he misses Mr. Robot. He's not a part of F Society. He's not a part of this great cause.
I thought it was really notable that as he starts talking about that, the clock ticking kind of turns up.
No, I didn't notice that. That's a nice touch.
Yeah, because it's kind of there subtly throughout the scene, except I think there's one point where music comes in and you don't hear it for a bit,
Yeah.
but it turns up when he starts talking about he misses being part of something important, something bigger than himself.
Almost as though it's counting down to something. Like,
It does, yeah.
so he zones out for a second. This is when the sweet music comes in. That sweet theme that plays when he's having like an actual moment, and he tells this story. Because he was thinking about something, and she's like, "Okay, so what were you thinking about?" He's like, "Oh, just something from my past." He's like, "Oh, can you share it with me?" And she's like, and it's a story about how him and Darlene, when they were kids, built a snowman, and they called the snowman Kevin McAllister from Home Alone because they were obsessed with. And one of my favorite moments of when he's telling this story is the smile on Krista's face, because it's almost like he's never actually shared a little story like this that means something to him. Like this is probably like the most personal he's ever got with her. But she gives this little smile, and he's like, "Oh, we were obsessed with that movie, and we were going to take a photo of it. So we went to get my dad's camera, and she's like, "Oh, how did that work out?" It's like, we never got back out because that was the day my dad pushed me out the window." And she's like, "Your dad pushed you out the window?" And I'm like, "Don't tell me she doesn't know. How could she not know that?"
Yeah, and he's convinced he told her. And I think that's maybe one of the most interesting things about this scene for me, is that he's confused us with her. Like, for a long time, we were the confident, we were the ones who he would tell these things. And now he's not talking to us, but he is talking to her, and he's kind of got us blurred in his head.
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie, my mind also kind of had a little sort of alternate universe spark as well. I'm like,
No, there's that too.
has he crossed timelines? Is this a different Krista?
I was racking my brain. I was like, has this ever come up in front of her? And I don't recall
No,
it.
I don't think it has. Yeah, I think he is maybe. I think confusing her with us is the more simple and obvious answer. Is is compared to the
but
other
you've got to
one.
mention every possible alternate timeline thing. If if we're going down that route, we're going to mention every single one.
Exactly. And that's fascinating. The idea that he thought he told her and he didn't, and she's like, wait. Because obviously, as a therapist, she's like, "Hey, wait a minute. This is maybe a big traumatic incident in your past. I might need to know about. You know, like I feel like
Yeah.
you know what's going on." And you know, it tells, and it doesn't even tell the whole story. She doesn't even know at this point that like why he get pushed, you know, why it happened or anything like that. But he was in the hospital for some time, and Darlene was pissed because they never got to take a photo of the snowman. Now, I want to come back to this snowman story later when we actually talk about a scene they have later, because I have more thoughts on it, but I feel like it ties in better once we've actually had their side
Oh,
of it.
that's fine.
So we'll leave the snowman for now. But certainly the idea, again, just that it was part of something. He was building something with his sister. I think you know, that just that idea that he's involved in something is something I'd mention just now. So, yes.
I think
Yeah,
the final part of that there is where she asks him, "What made you think of that now?" And he claims he doesn't know. Like, he's like, "Oh, no idea." But I don't know. I suspect he has some ideas in his head, because he always does.
Yeah, it does. It's interesting actually because it's because it's partly because they're talking about Darlene, but just the fact that the snowman melted before they could do anything with it, it was almost like that's where his childhood ended. Like from that day on, nothing was the same again because of the incident, and the snowman kind of represented that. So it's almost just like it's this pivot point in his life, and that's that's why it's important.
Maybe that this fracture with Darlene has kind of become it's exemplified in that moment.
Yeah. So then we cut to Joanna. She's on a TV show. She's on Let's Be Frank. We've seen this before. I never noticed the name of the show before, admittedly, because I mean, we always cut to this guy on this TV show.
It's just the talk show.
Yeah, but she's on this TV show and she's talking about Scott Knowles, who his wife was the one that was murdered in season 1. He's now been arrested for the crime. If you remember from last season, she convinced the barman she was dating to like tell this story to back up the story that he was maybe the one involved in the murder and not Tyrell. And we see that it's at least somewhat effective. It doesn't sound like they've completely written off Tyrell, but at the very least they're looking into this as a plausible suspect.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So there's a independent witness corroborating it, so they're gonna have to.
So what I noted down about this interview scene is two things. One, she has a perfect American accent in this scene, and she isn't typically. She's putting on the show. She's making her emotional speech. She's like, oh, I love my husband, he's innocent, blah 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 blah. But it's all very, I love him, I'm devoted, I've never loved anyone else. Which obviously it comes back up later. But I was just thinking, like, man, she's really hurting Barman's feelings right now. She's like on TV, like talking about how much she loves him.
Yeah,
that's good stuff. But yeah, so I noted down this was an emotional show. This was all fabricated. This was her doing her thing that she does, where she puts on the act.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it? It's the highlight of that, because a lot of her thing has always been the act. It was always, as the wife and of the businessman, kind of helping him climb the ladder, and now she's doing it to save him, and get him free. And it makes me question who she is, because everything she's done, it's kind of, at least to us, looks like she's done it for Tyrell, but you always feel like she's got her own motives above that.
Yeah. And there's a little bit afterwards. She's been driven home by the old bodyguard, whose name, because I did this all last season, Mr. Sutherland, that's his name. I never bothered learning his name last season because he's the bodyguard.
Yeah.
He was in so much of it though, and he's like noticing they're being followed. But that's all that scene is. We come back to that in a little bit.
We actually hear on the radio that the new F Society videos just come out.
It transitions quite neatly into the next scene, because that comes up on the radio, and then we see the video, and we see that it's Darlene watching the video on a laptop, and eventually we see the other characters, but they actually kind of hide who she's talking to an extent for a little bit. We see just like Dom and the other guy from behind, in front of her. It
was one of those weird ones where once they revealed it, I realised it was supposed to be a reveal, because I'd just been assuming the whole time.
It was a reveal to a point. I don't think it was meant to be like, there's no way you knew that was Dom. It was obviously Dom the whole time.
Yeah.
It was just a kind of like, because they've not actually showed us, without a doubt that she's working with the FBI yet. We were talking about it loads last week, but this is the first time they're actually saying, no, she definitely is. This is what's happening. So Darlene's like, this is bullshit. This isn't real, or this isn't someone she knows who's doing this. She doesn't recognise the speaker. She's like, no, this isn't us. At least not in her current form. She theorizes this is the Dark Army who are fabricating this and making it look like F Society. So yeah,
there's also in this, while this conversation's going on, clock is ticking again, very noticeably.
Yeah, actually, I noticed the audio was a little bit strange in this scene. Whenever it cut to the FBI agents talking, especially the guy, there was almost more of like an echo, and it was almost like they'd specifically went for an acoustic kind of sound here.
Yeah, it made them sound a little bit further away.
Yeah,
like they were a bit disconnected from everything.
Yeah, and so one thing I pointed out here is that they talk about her being a CHS, and she's like, I don't know what that means. What's that? And they're like, oh, it's a confidential human source. And then she's like, no, speak English. If you actually spoke English, maybe I'd understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I thought that was an interesting little moment. I think it's, again, this idea of things being hidden, this idea of things behind, like, facades and emojis instead of just being what they are. It's kind of that theme for me.
It's the letters instead of just saying you're a source.
Yeah. Yeah, you can't just say what I am. You have to dress it up in fancy dialect because, for whatever reason, because it makes it feel organised. It makes it feel like you have control instead of, what things actually are. So she apparently has immunity for working with them in this capacity. And the scene ends where she is basically, she's convinced that Elliot doesn't work with Tyrell. In fact,
I think she says he's never had a relationship with Tyrell.
Yeah, which as soon as she said, I was like, yeah, she was never there for any of that. Like she didn't ever interact with Tyrell with them together. So as far as she's concerned, that's true. and she brings up the when they lost the tail in the last episode, and he's like, yeah, that's still very suspicious. There's a stink on that, and it wasn't her. It was it was Irving who lost the tail, but she's like, no, he's never worked with Tyrell. And that's when they play the phone call from the prison from last season, which is very funny because I remember at the time we were thinking, was that real? Did he actually phone? Was this on Elliot's head?
Yeah, that was the moment that was like, because there was nothing else to go with it. It was very surreal, wasn't it?
Especially as we went further on and Tyrell wasn't showing up. It was like, is Tyrell dead? Is he that was a big thing last season. Is where's Tyrell? But yeah, so that's how the scene ends. So it's kind of like it's her being shocked to her core because even she doesn't know her brother as well as she thought she did.
Yeah, exactly. It's this idea of Elliot kept everyone in the dark for whatever he did for some of it.
So we go back to Joanna in the car, and they're still being followed. Sullivan stops the car and gets out, storms back up to the other car. It's the barman boyfriend who is distraught. He is very upset. He's, blah 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 blah. She loves me. Right? Two stylistic things I really liked about this moment. One, the headroom was uneven. Whenever it cut to Sullivan, he was mostly pretty normally framed. When it cut to the barman, he was
really small in the frame.
Yeah, he was tiny in the frame. There was like so much headroom above him. It was unreal. And then the other thing I loved is that whenever he shouted over to Joanna as if he was talking to her in the car, we never got a reverse shot of Joanna hearing that. We got a reverse shot of the back of the car. And it was just, for me, it was like, because she doesn't care. She's not going to get out and acknowledge him. She doesn't give a shit.
Yeah, exactly.
So it's just a faceless car that we get in the reverse shot instead of her face inside the car. So I thought that was a really nice stylistic little touch. Sullivan's kind of, roughs him up.
I think there's actually some really interesting dialogue in this bit. He says he'll retract his statement, and Sutherland says, will you do that and you'll end up dead. And then he says, that's how little we care about your life. And I'm wondering, is the we just him and Joanna, or is there more going on?
Yeah, are they part of a group? Are they connected to the Dark Army?
Yeah, exactly. Are they connected to the Dark Army and trying to get Tyrell, publicly okay?
That said, I wouldn't guess Dark Army because I feel like the way Joanna didn't know where Tyrell was last season would imply that it's not Dark Army to me.
No, that's true.
So
it was just the way he said "we" kind of stood out to me. It's like it could just mean him and Joanna, but
it could.
I never got the impression that he was so in on all her plans that enough to say "we." I don't know.
Yeah, no, I get you. So actually, as soon as he walks back to the car, he roughs him up. He's on the ground. Barman's on the ground, and you see him open his door behind, and he's sort of looking into the car. I was like, he looks like he's going for a gun. Like, I said that as soon as like that shot was there, and sure enough, the next shot we're inside the car, and it's just this side profile view looking out the side window, and we see him like out of focus coming up to the side and shooting in. And it's really nicely shot. And then the rest of the scene all takes place in one shot inside the car. It's very impressive actually because so guy shoots Sullivan. Sullivan's been shot. It looks kind of dead. The camera then pans round to Joanna, and Joanna's kind of scared. She's going for Sullivan's gun. She leans over and grabs it, but she gets shot during this, and she snaps back into the back seat. Camera goes with her, and we see she's shot in the head. Joanna's dead. She's, unless we get really sci-fi soon, she is dead. And then the camera pans back out, looks out the front of the window, and the barman's there. And I thought he was going to kill himself. He was looking at the gun, he was kind of thinking about it. And then he gets shot, the camera comes back into the car, or it's still in the car, but it pans back round, and we see Sullivan shot him. The camera keeps panning, looks at Joanna again, and then actually, tilts up and flips, and we see the baby who's in the car the whole time, with blood on its head. And the way I wrote that down, which I think is the way to sort of take it in a sort of in terms of like using it to analyze something, I wrote that down as blood on our youth.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, it was just kind of the idea of like the sins of the like the parent society as a whole, the adults kind of ruining things for the future, and
it's tainted.
Even just think of Elliot's story with Mr. Robot, like his father and what happened to him. Some of it his fault, some of it not his fault, but all of it kind of laid the groundwork for what he is now. So, this baby's going to be in therapy is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, I don't know how I feel about this in general. Joanna being killed.
Now, I actually, yeah, I agree. This is the one weird point in the episode that I think begs a little discussion, because it feels like it's an external reason rather than within the story itself for this.
Yeah, maybe we'll move on and we'll learn more and it'll make sense and it'll come together. But last season, she was such a powerful force in what she was doing. She became arguably the most terrifying character on the show. And that one interaction she really had with Elliot that one time, and that was just incredible.
Yeah, it felt like it was building to more, and now she's dead. Now, it was a shocking death. I definitely wasn't expecting it, but it does kind of feel like there was more plans with her, which
It
makes
me wonder what's the purpose of this if it isn't external. What was the purpose of this in the story?
Yeah, maybe it's about how it affects Tyrell when he finds out. Maybe it's about other things. There could be a point here about how she's kind of reaped her own. She's not indestructible as she thought she was. She talks a fair game, she acts a fair game, but like she wasn't untouchable. This is kind of what she reaped. I think it may be external though. I don't know if it's something bad external. It could be disputes creatively. Where she wasn't playing balls. Behind the scenes. It could be just she needed to be let go for scheduling reasons. She had commitments or something.
It could be, especially with it having moved when it was in the year. That will have had a knock-on effect on the shooting and scheduling.
Yeah, possibly. But that's kind of I kind of like this scene is really well done. It's just her dying feels a bit weird because it felt like it was building to more. But hey, I mean, people can die at any time in the show, I guess. So
like I said, I'm gonna wait and I'm skeptical right now about its place, but Esmail's earned enough faith that okay, I'll give it a chance and see if this pays off somehow, if it makes sense in the larger scheme of things a bit later.
That sounds really kind of negative, though, in the sense where you think you'll be annoyed if it doesn't, and I don't think I'll care that much, really, in the long run.
Maybe not. I just feel like we spent so much of last season setting her up as this force to be reckoned with.
We did, and it does feel a bit odd, but like everything else is so strong right now.
It is, but I'll still be disappointed about this.
Oh, sure, but I don't think it'll be that big. Like when we get to the end of the season, if it's never actually, if we never really go back to it, it doesn't really matter that much. Like if the rest of the season is like knocking it out of the park like everything else is right now, I feel like I'm not going to like. Oh yeah, weird misstep, but.
And that's fair. I'll probably still hold it against it a bit more than that, but
of course you would. So just in case you thought she wasn't dead, we cut to an autopsy table and her skull's being opened.
Just clearing up any doubts.
Any doubts? She's dead. She's deader than dead. She's as dead as can be. And obviously we have Dom here, and they're talking about what's going on. This is strange. All that kind of thing. They mentioned the bodyguard, Solon is alive, so we know he should be back up and kicking. Which we might get to what that we meant. If there's more of him,
we might. That's why I mentioned it, knowing that he's still alive. There could be something still to go with that.
Yeah. So yeah, they bring up the baby. Actually, Dom's boss is basically like, no, we're not going to contact any next of kin. We don't want people knowing about this. This will just stir things up. We need to keep this contained. So the baby's just going to social services, and Dom, kind of looks like morally, I don't know if I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
because the kid might have family it can go to, and instead we're going to ship it off to an orphanage.
Just put it into the system, so to speak.
The system, of course, which we're seeing is kind of heartless and cold, and isn't necessarily working, which is why Elliot in the first place and FCI.
It's kind of why the show exists.
Yeah, So Dom actually agrees with a lot of what Darlene said. She agrees that the video seems a bit fishy. She believes that she believes that Darlene actually doesn't just because he speculates. Oh well, have F Society just moved past this? If it is this, why wouldn't she just say this? It's like, yeah, but she didn't say that. She was specifically kind of almost offended, and this doesn't feel right, kind of thing. Yeah. And so she's actually, and she kind of vouches for her because he's like, oh, is she a flight risk? And he's like, no, I don't think she is. I think she's fine.
Funny you mentioned that. Have you heard the theory that this has been going around since last season of Darlene is going to die in a plane crash? There have been numerous images of, like hints that she'll die. Is then there's a Red Lantern theory where all these people who have Red Lanterns in front of them then die, and then there's been multiple images of planes, like model planes or planes on posters, looking like they're crashing into her.
I have noticed I think there was one in this episode actually.
Yeah, and this here calling her a flight risk. It felt very like once I was aware of this this theory. I kind of started looking for it and started noticing it, and it's little bits of dialogue like that, which could be nothing at all. But once you're looking for it, it kind of just seems like it's part of it.
My question would be, why is that something that is heavily hinted like this?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, part of the theory I believe was, it would be to go maybe into this this video is, the F Society was saying, oh, it'll be a really big, it'll be explosive, that sort of thing. I think was what was the phrase?
Yeah, it'll be more explosive. It'll be louder than the message we've sent before. It's like,
right, and it's like, okay, is part of phase 2 actually crashing a plane into something, and
that's assuming that this has anything to do with phase 2. Like,
no, right, yeah, it could be further than that.
At this point, we're like, is this even related to the phases that we're talking about?
And also, White Rose had the last CEO of E Corp killed in a plane crash, so. It's like there's all these things that have kind of built up that, and that when you're looking for them, kind of seem like, these might be going somewhere.
Again, I asked the question though, why is this something that's hinted at for this amount of time? Because usually when there's something being hinted at, it's because there's something going on. This implies to me that destiny is a factor, because it's always going to happen. That's why it's been hinted at for so long.
Okay.
Otherwise, what is the purpose of seeding ideas of just like, because it's going to be not random death, but if it does happen, it's it's because of the circumstances at the time.
Yes.
Right. So it's kind of a weird thing to me. Like, why are we hinting at that for so long? Then I mean, I like it. I'm not saying I don't like it. I'm saying why. Why is that something that's been teased for so long? I'm with you.
I think that is a good question.
It's like
you can say the same about the no. Before you get into your reference there,
it's a relevant reference.
Fine, go on.
On the hit television show Buffy the Vampire Slayer, there were seeds for a couple of years that there was a sister coming, that Dawn was coming, and that was like it was building to it because it was kind of like, oh, this is going to be a big thing, and it was going to call back on, but it was there because it kind of rewrote everything that came before it in a sense. But the idea it was a big thing that was coming. It kind of reminds me of that in a little way if it goes down. But that's the kind of thing where that did alter reality. That was like something that was kind of like affecting things. And
actually, to jump off that, we're talking a lot about alternate realities and how heavily hinted it seems to be, and it almost feels like, okay, is that supposed to be drawing our attention? Are we supposed to be catching these really obvious things? I think we talked about last week about how it seemed really blatant for some of these to be mentioned, whereas these are a lot more subtle and more like maybe these are the real thing that's going to go down.
Maybe if we're talking about alternate realities, did she just die in a reality other than this one? Was she in a plane crash?
Yeah.
Like, let's go crazy here. Let's say White Rose is from an alternate reality, right? Like White Rose is what Zhang saw from alternate reality or merged with alternate reality. Let's say the reality that White Rose came from, Darlene died in a plane crash. Already.
Yeah, no, it could be.
Yeah, that's my sort of almost.
And I wonder then if that's the case, does White Rose try and recreate that? It's like, no, that's how things are supposed to be. You're supposed to die in a plane crash.
Yeah, maybe. I'm just like that's my kind of like bullshit sci-fi answer. As you say, what if she's going to die in a plane crash? I'm like, what if she's already died in a plane crash?
No, I'm with you.
Anyway, so that was pretty much that scene. Yeah, Dom's told that she's not investigating Dark Army. She is just on F Society and Tyrell. Know your place is basically what he says. That's your job.
Yeah.
So that takes us on to the pier scene, which is full enough. We're back to Darlene. So Darlene has texted Elliot to meet her at the pier. Well, obviously, we've came back to this pier repeatedly. It's been a big thing for the characters. Obviously, the F Society location was there, which is funny. We don't have that this season because they found that, and this, be taken away.
gone.
But it was such a big place for the show in the first couple of seasons.
Yeah, it's go down to specifically for these characters. The sister reveal came here.
It did. It's funny actually. One of the things she said in this scene put perspective to that the first time we see her on the show for me, because she mentions here that part of why she did, like, she helped with all this, she get involved in all this, was to be with him again, like, and be close with him again, like they hadn't really done that in a while. And it almost like made me think back to the first time we see her, and like we don't know it's his sister, but she's kind of like standoffish, like she's pissed at him, and it kind of like, oh, I kind of get it, like they've not been close at that point, and they got close again through working on F Society and working through the hack,
and it's why they managed to hide that reveal for so long, is because their relationship wasn't there for us to guess. We weren't seeing this, sibling relationship.
Yeah, it's great. One thing I really liked here is on the two shot where you see both of them in the frame, there's like I don't know what it is, like it's a tower, there's part of the attractions. It's this tower that's between them, but the lighting that's on it, it's the fancy sort of lighting. It's red and white lines like moving up and down, and it literally looks like a sort of like a barrier, like a danger barrier, like caution.
Yeah.
Between them, it was like dividing between them, and it was saying, "No, these two things are separate." Visually, that was a really nice touch, I thought, in terms of what was going on. So yeah, she brings up all this bullshit, like you like, this is my childhood too. It's not just you that get messed up from everything that happened with Dad, like, because he mentions that she might trigger him. Yes. It's like, no, it's not just your childhood, like it's mine too. Which does, like, okay, so she's clearly screwed up as well. We've seen she's screwed up. She killed someone last season. We saw her go dark. We saw Dark Darlene. So she says she's going to leave. She's claiming to leave. So she's kind of manipulating him, because we see she's got a goal. We see what that is later on in the episode. But she's being very careful, and she's talking about being close again, like I mentioned. Like, she brings that up. She's pushing the button. She's trying to form a connection. She's trying to get close and make him feel comfortable. And I've put down next to that kind of like the snowman, because he brings up Kevin McAllister, the snowman that they built together, because obviously it's fresh in his head. He was talking about it. Now, two things. I want you to analyse this a little bit, but I want you to note down her reaction to this and what she says. She doesn't react like, "Oh yeah, remember that fun childhood memory that we shared with the snowman?"
Yeah, she goes like, "Of course I do. Like, how could I forget?"
She looks at something dead serious, and then she says that, and then she says, "Do you want to talk about it?" As if there's something else there that we don't know about. As if that incident has more, and not just the fact that it was right before the push out the window. It sounds like there's more there to me.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, and you could take it as, oh, it's just that it was that day, and she knows it was that day.
Yeah.
And if it is just that, fair enough. I'll accept it. But it felt like there was more.
It feels like more, and so yeah, the stuff I wanted to analyse here, just about the snowman, is just the idea that they did used to work together. They worked in that snowman like a project. Like when they were kids, they used to work on things together. And the idea that this F Society thing was kind of them going back to that after a long time of not doing it. Like, they reconnected, and this was once again their snowman. But much like the snowman, it kind of melted, after the fact.
Right, that's it. They try, and they built something, but it was incomplete. He mentioned it didn't have arms.
Yeah, because they had the arms for the face there. Oh,
yeah.
For the movie.
So they mentioned it was incomplete, and it's like, yeah, it never really got there, and then they lost it before they could, before it could be immortalized. It was gone.
And in both instances, it was kind of, in a roundabout way, it was their father who intervened and stopped it from finishing like they intended to.
Yeah, and stopping their achievement being recognized.
Yeah. So I think there's definitely correlations there, and I think it's funny, like, we spent all of last season knowing their brother and sister, but because he was in prison, there wasn't as much interaction with them for a lot of it, and because of that, we didn't really get to explore kind of what them growing up together with these parents and with their father and what happened, and explore kind of how that felt and how that relationship was before, because we found out so late in the first season that it was kind of like a new thing, and then season 2 didn't really give us a chance to explore that. So I feel like this is the first time, like, no, we're talking about their childhood together.
We really haven't experienced that.
Because the only time we really got to see it was in that the sitcom episode where we got to see them together.
Yeah,
as a
we
family.
got little moments and we got little hints of things, but we never really got them confronting each other and discussing things together.
Yeah,
like this.
And discussing, like in this case, the snowman. But I thought that was very interesting. And she seems to have succeeded, combined with his loneliness, because he actually asked at the end of the scene, "Can you stay with me tonight? I don't want to be alone."
Yeah, and then you see that it goes, the top down shot with like almost the spotlight on them, and
Yeah.
the rest of the world's black, and it's just the two of them together in the light.
It's just the two of them, but it's very foreboding because it is so dark and it is kind of,
Yeah.
So it is interesting stuff. So, then we go to actually Philip Price, which by the way I noted because I wrote down my notes. I wrote Price down as the header for the scene. We cut to Price, and my first note is eCoin Bitcoin War, and then I thought, that goes with his name really well. His name's Price.
Oh yeah.
We're on season 3 of the show, and I've just kind of got the weird kind of wink, nudge, of his name.
That's good.
So yeah, currency war. He's basically complaining that all the countries but China have signed up to accept eCoin as the new currency that they're going to use.
It's essentially that's the new gold standard to which everything is based on.
But China, however, have decided to sort of work with Bitcoin, and they're developing Bitcoin. And
to be fair, given Bitcoin's incredible exchange rate, they might be making the right move there.
Yeah, but then again, we don't have this fictionalized eCoin.
We don't. No.
That's competing with it. We don't have this war. And Price is frustrated clearly, so he ends up meeting with Zhang in this room. And I didn't note this down. I remember as they're in the room, and it's these two, these rich guys, head of companies, talking about the stuff. I just compared to every other location, which has been dingy apartments. Elliot's dingy apartment, and where Darlene's staying in the safe house. This is the 1% room. It's it's very posh.
They're at the G20. This is, this is the most important people in the world who are. All the political leaders are there to try and fix the world.
But it was just the room, the set design of it. It was it was leather sofas, all wood paneling, and very very posh, very it contrasted so much with Elliot, looking at his shattered mirror in this dingy apartment with these really dark walls and almost felt like a crack den at times.
Yeah, it did.
So basically, Price is look, I'm pushing through your UN vote. You're going to have your annex of the Congo. You're going to have it. You're going to have that. Now, just accept eCoin. Let's do this. Let's get this done with. I'm sick of this bullshit. Let's get this done. And he's like, hey, once I've got what I want, we'll look at what you want.
He gets real threatening. He's like, because he turns around and goes, I'll tell you something. Your success will always follow mine.
And Price actually, he threatens him. Zhang tries to leave, and he's like, "Hey, maybe I'll change the UN's mind about this vote. Maybe you won't get the Congo." And he turns around. He's challenging Zhang, and Zhang turns around, he steps in, and he gets really intimidated. He brings up Angela, and I wasn't actually sure who he meant at first. I was like, "Who was sticking out documents? Who did he? Oh, Angela, right? Okay."
Yeah. It took me a second as well.
Do you know what it was? It was when they started talking about her eyes. I'm like, that's Angela. Angela's got the eyes.
Yeah, she does.
Those big hypnotic eyes. But he's like, I contemplated firing bullets into her eyes, but they were just so mesmerizing. I'm like, and this is we saw White Rose meet with Angela, and what the tone was like, and it was very different. And maybe he did consider this, or maybe he's just saying this to scare the shit out of Philip.
Or maybe White Rose and Zhang are more separate than we think.
Yeah,
maybe it is more Elliot, Mr. Robot.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe it's Elliot and Mr. Robot if they were at their peak. How we'll get to it. Mr. Robot kind of wants to work together. That's what they were for a long time. But maybe that's kind of what White Rose and Zhang are as well. They
separate,
are two separate entities, but they are working in conjunction.
They are. But is it more interesting if they're not though? What if they are separate?
That's it.
Conflicting each other. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's kind of funny when we first sort of learned about this, White Rose and Zhang dual kind of personality thing. It's funny that we never instantly went to, he's like Mr. Robot. He's like Elliot and Mr. Robot. We never kind of jumped to that right away. It took a while before we sort of started contemplating, maybe he's like him. Maybe it's the same kind of thing. Almost. Yeah. If nothing else, thematically, we're still dealing with dual identities, and it's very David Lynch. David Lynch must love this show because it's playing with this idea of two sides to the same person. That's his bag.
Yeah, it feels like it's why this feels like filling that void after Twin Peaks. It's kind of this is sitting in nicely. So,
final line of the scene is that he steps into Price and is like, "Don't mistake my generosity for generosity," and then walks out like a badass. So, as it's a one-liner. It's very good.
It was good.
I'll give it to him.
Zhang's he's great because I think obviously White Rose was the more immediately compelling.
Yeah.
You know, because it's just head of the Dark Army, you got all that stuff going on, and Zhang was like, okay, he's this businessman, he's a government minister for China, but I don't know much about him. I don't know, what he's doing.
Yeah, and I think he almost seems more evil than White Rose. White Rose seemed like she was the harsher version, but now Zhang's kind of feeling the darker
Yeah,
one.
and I'm going back to the alternate universe stuff, but I kind of dawned on me, when he met Dom, and she asked about all the dresses, and he said, they were my sisters, and she said, I don't have any. You don't have any sisters. Well, and you never did. And it's like, okay, is sister what they call like these alternate realities? It's like a sister version.
Yeah, I just kind of took it that was his excuse, but yeah, I
Yeah,
mean,
yeah, but what if it's not?
you could put it like that way. So yeah, that was that scene. So that takes us back on to Elliot and Darlene. Elliot's asleep in his bed, and Darlene's being sneaky. She's putting a bug of some kind onto the computer. We see her behind the monitor, like planting something. Elliot's asleep, and she's about to leave. She's sneaking on her jacket, and she sees the photo. I love how the show doesn't actually like do a close up. You get a quick glimpse of it, and you can tell it's the photo from the beach that we saw from the sitcom episode. And she just has a moment. She looks at it, and she's about to leave. And she turns around, and Elliot's just standing right there. And he's like, "What were you doing?" It's like, "Why were you leaving?" I was looking for a pen, leaving a note. He basically, the conversation kind of goes round in circles a little bit because she keeps like thinking of something to say. Like, I'm going for a bus. They're not running. There's a strike. Oh, on a train then. What's the interrogation?
And just to go back to the plane thing, one other thing that she did say here, she says, "I'm going to crash with a friend upstate."
All right, I think you may be reading into that one a little bit.
That
too
one
much.
might be, but part of the theory is that Dom's going to crash as well.
All right, okay.
So it's like, okay, is there something upstate with the two of them?
Fair enough.
If it happens, it's there.
If it happens, I will concede that this word the use of the word crash here was. I hate you now. I'm going to see you next week. I'm going to.
You're going to look for everything, every line.
Oh man. But so he's interrogating. He's very, very kind of not too forceful yet, but he's forceful enough. But then when she finally tries to leave, he grabs her arm really violently and sort of push up against the wall. And that was the moment where I went,
"Oh,
wait a minute!" And then the camera sort of goes in really close to her. Again, it's all kind of one shot from this point on. This part of the scene's all one shot. Because it's going into her face, and he starts asking questions about,
what did you do?"
Yeah, what did you do? Like, why are you here? Why are you staying here? And I'm like, oh my god, it is. And then she's like, well, why are you asking? And then she clocks it. It's like,
Yeah.
You're him. And then the camera pulls out, and it's Christian Slater. And I'm like, oh shit.
Such a good moment. The chills.
Do you know what makes it work? Is they've resisted doing it till now. This is I may be wrong on this. Maybe there's been a small moment, but I think this is the first time I've ever seen Rami Malek play Mr. Robot. This is the first time he's done it.
You might be right, and I mean, even if not, they especially threw us off after last episode because when we had that moment at night where Angela comes out and immediately you're like, that's Mr. Robot. Whereas here it kind of played with it. It's the expectation.
The funny thing is, though, it's the exact same twist because
It
he goes to sleep, he wakes up, and he's Mr. Robot. They just don't show us it.
That's what I mean. That's how they throw us because they showed it us last time. So our expectations are that, if they do this, we're just going to see him as Mr. Robot. We're going to be aware. But this time we're not in on it.
And it's a great little twist. It's very horror movie. I'll get more thoughts on how horror this season is later. But it's very horror movie. And I'm like, oh man, you've opened a can of worms. Because now I'm going to be like questioning things. Like, I mean, to its credit though, I feel like when it goes back to Elliot. Because at the end of the scene, it seems like it does switch back to Elliot. Because she shouts, "Oh, I'm getting away from you psycho," or whatever she says. Calls him a crazy person as she leaves the apartment. And the camera lingers on Elliot, and I'm like, I think he just switched back to Elliot. Because, I mean, he goes to therapy again the next day.
No, I agree. I think he comes back and he's like, what just happened? Wait. He was like, he was here.
Yeah, but now he's here when I'm not here. Like, when we're not experiencing the same things. And it goes two ways, because Mr. Robot even mentions, when we see him in a minute, that he's not, Mr. Robot's not seeing stuff that they clearly don't know what's going on with each other, and it's making them not trust each other.
Yeah, because we often had it where, Mr. Robot was hiding things from Elliot. But, like, they always felt intentional. Like, no, we don't want you to see this yet, but it's there. You can access it if you really need to.
Yeah.
And we saw him do that where he fought through. He was like, no, if you've seen it, I can see it.
Yeah.
Whereas
Whereas
now, not at all.
yeah, now Mr. Robot's not seen anything that Elliot is, which is, why he's questioning Darlene. And he knows she's up to something. He gets it. He's like, she was doing something. She's onto it. She's a she's a snake right now. So we go back to Krista. We go back to a therapy scene, and he's like, he actually says, "I want you to talk to him. I want you to talk to."
And it's when he says that the clocks come in again, really.
Yeah, and she's like, "Okay," and she does a little, not quite hypnosis, but like close your eyes, and let
close
him.
your eyes. Just let him. If you want it to, it'll happen.
And she's the only person who can do this. No one else has ever like brought him out like sort of voluntarily like this, and so obviously I'm like, okay, if he comes out here, this is going to be a great scene because we've never seen Krista interact with Mr. Robot.
I think more importantly, it tells just for the future. If Elliot needs Mr. Robot in a situation, he's like, no, I can't handle this. I don't know what to do, but he can. He can kind of choose to let him take over. He knows that.
Yeah. So he closes his eyes and then he opens them, and as soon as he opens them, his demeanor, like, it felt different. The acting here was phenomenal.
It is, and he sits forward,
and of course he starts to talk, and it's the two voices merged together. It's
blended immaculately.
Yeah, it's both Slater and Malik at the same time. And then it cuts to her reaction, and then it cuts back, and then that's when it's Slater. That's when it switched actor to him.
Yeah.
And he's like, and she's like, "Oh, it's nice to finally meet you." And it's like, oh man, like they're playing with this so much this season. That dichotomy between them, and like when it's one of them, when it's not the other. But yeah, so they can't be at the same time, and he's pissed about that. He's like, no, like you need to, you're ruining this. We were fine before when he could see what I was seeing, and vice versa, but now we can't.
Yeah. And he says he's seeing things that Elliot should be seeing too.
Yeah. And he tries to flirt with her. He's like, "Oh, you never told me you were so foxy." And he tries to like flirt with her, and she's like, "Oh no, that's that would be immoral. I don't date patients, so on." He's like, "Well, sucks to be you, because I'm great, crazy, sexy."
Yeah, and there's a bit here where going back into that whole where he's talking about he's seeing things. He's kind of a bit frantic. He's a bit panicky almost. He says, we got to get him back to our work. And it's this idea that to Mr. Robot, they still are on the same side. Like, even though he's kind of working against Elliot, the ultimate goal is still, no, this is our thing. We're in this together.
Yeah, it's kind of like a parent, I'm not saying this because he's his father, I'm just comparing it. It's like a parent saying, "Oh, I know what's best for you. This is for your own good."
Yeah.
Kind of thing, almost. But yeah, he quotes Freud when he's basically explaining, the whole idea behind F society about civilization not caring about its people, and therefore it's not,
Yeah.
I didn't write the whole thing down, but that was the gist of it. It's not worthy of lasting because it doesn't care about its people. Yeah, and he's like, "No, you're trying to destroy me. You're not trying to help me. You're trying to destroy me, Mr. Robot." And he even chuckles when he's like, "Oh, what does he call me again?" He's like, "Mr. Robot." It's like, you still call me that? Like,
yeah, he's so caught up on the labels, which again plays nicely back into the emojis and stuff at the start, where it's this basic labeling.
Yeah, and that's when, again, back to the horror movie stuff, he leans in. He gets very intimidating, to Krista. And he mentions that Darlene's compromised us, and she's like, "Compromised? What do you mean compromised?"
Well, yeah, he never says Darlene, but we know he just says she compromised us.
Yeah. Obviously, we know who he's talking about, but yeah. But he's very intimidating. But then, of course, like, it's very close up. She's almost like caught in the moment herself. Like, it's like she's zoning out for a second because she's so scared. And then, like, Elliot's just back on the couch, like, "Oh, when do we start?" Like, he's not even aware that it's happened.
Yeah. Can we just take a minute to talk about how amazing Christian Slater's acting is? It's incredible.
It's fantastic. They're both nailing it. So, and the idea that I love that we get a little bit of Malik doing Mr. Robot now, because they've held that back so much. It's almost insane to think there was a time in this show that it even like let us know that they were the same person.
It is, isn't it?
Like, think back to the start of season 1, and like, yeah, sure, we kind of figured it out relatively early on, but they still, they went through the motions of, no, he doesn't know this shit.
Yeah.
And then we got to the point where we did find out, and now it's like, it's so ingrained as part of the show that, the entire plot this season is like, where, Angela's working with one of them, but not the other. The therapist can now bring him out and talk to him as a different person.
Each other.
Yeah. It's a war between Elliot and Mr. Robot. It's fascinating.
Really is.
But now it's exciting. So then we cut to the train, talking about how the stuff in the background with
Yeah,
Darlene.
you got the poster.
Yeah, behind Elliot there's a separation anxiety, and the post it's like a little man that's taking off his head, and there's like stuff coming out of his head, and I thought, oh, very funny.
Yes. And
Right
and it was obviously just the whole thing at the start was, Elliot's lonely. He's not able to cope without Mr. Robot.
And it's funny because he starts talking to us again in this scene, and he's not done it since the start. So it's almost like he's feeling the impact of being lonely again. He's feeling after what he's went through at the therapist office.
Yeah, and he asks us, were we did we go away with Elliot, or did we stay and see the whole thing?
And of course we did.
We did, yeah.
Yeah. And we never used to, which is maybe interesting of itself. Is that part of the dynamic of the show? The fact that we are now seeing Mr. Robot's side of
we
things.
used to get it hidden from us in the same way Elliot did.
So, yeah, 'cause I think we theorise, like, if there's another personality, or we the third personality, or the audience, like, part of the plot in that weird way. Like, does that say something that we are now witnessing this, and he's not, like, it's
Yeah.
pondering. On his way home, there's a prostitute that says, scan my QR code and I'll give you a blowjob, which I think is just such a fascinating, just especially since we're watching the Deuce right now, and that's like how things changed in the 70s. I'm like, is this the future? Like, let me scan your QR code. Like,
it's not inconceivable, is it?
Now, I mean, I kind of see a future where prostitution is just legal anyway, so it would have all these advancements. But the idea of, like, a streetwalker pulling out a little, like, sort of like credit card, like, touchless, contactless
it's
card
kind of the idea
reader.
of, like, all really small businesses now will have card readers. But before it was like, okay, if you're a corner shop, you might just be cash. But now it's like, no, you can have a contactless card reader.
Yeah, I just like the idea of a streetwalker just pulling out the little reader and like going, all right, tap, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, that's such an interesting little idea. But he just questions, is Phase 2 still alive? Like, he doubts himself for the first time since, he's been, away, these past 5 weeks. He seems to be, like, kind of confident in himself that he's cancelled Phase 2, but now he's questioning, is it still there? He's doubting himself.
I think it's also this idea is, now, before he generally knew when Mr. Robot had been around, even if he didn't know what had happened. He kind of knew something had happened, but this time in therapy, he didn't even realize that Mr. Robot had come out. He was like, are we starting?
Yeah, he suspected it the night before with Darlene because she reacted in a way, in a way that didn't make sense to what, he witnessed.
He doesn't know anymore. And it's this idea of, wait, could Mr. Robot be up to something without him knowing? Because how can he possibly tell?
Great stuff. So he gets home, and the guy from the first season, the one who was dating Krista with the dog, who came and demanded his dog back there. This had an extreme case of empty space, this scene, actually. Both the shots, they were both in the bottom corner of their respective shots, and there was like so much empty space on the screen. It was very vacant, very...
It was, yeah.
So he's... Basically, he just wants to unburden himself of the dog. He never cared about the dog. It was more about the point in winning. And now he's just sick of the dog because the dog like shits everywhere. He's like, here, you take the dog.
Yeah, and he talks about the dog's it's sick. It's sick. It's probably dying. It's a mess. And this is something that maybe I've been watching too much of Leftovers recently. But I was thinking, does the dog represent society? And it's this idea of
I think it does, but I think. I don't want to go as far to say, the dog represents society. I think it's more about Elliot's side of it, where he's at the point now where he wants to fix and heal something that's already there, rather than just get a new thing.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. It's like, no, but the guy's coming up with this dog going, no, it's broken. I don't want to deal with this anymore. I want to just give up. And Elliot's like, he's going to take it in. He's going to, presumably nurture it back.
Yeah, but I just looked at it more from Elliot's side of like his motivation and his mindset, rather than just getting douchey and saying the dog represents society.
Well, I was looking at it from both of them, is all. Yeah, like you've never said anything douchey on this show.
Oh, I have, but sometimes when you think of the douchey thing and I don't, I just like, no, it's just douchey.
Fair enough.
I'm always right. You're always wrong. Just remember that.
It's a general rule of thumb. Yeah,
that's how it works.
Until Darlene dies in a plane crash.
I didn't say it wasn't going to happen.
No, I know. I just.
But This isn't like leftovers with the Australia stuff. No, this is. I'm like, oh, that sounds interesting. Yeah, sure.
Yeah,
And that wasn't even your idea. You saw it online and brought it in.
I know, but you didn't. So screw you.
I didn't read something online. Oh wow.
I mean, I read the specific, the crash up state. That's the one I'm hanging on to.
But what even makes that right? Like, oh, she's on a plane upstate specifically.
Yes, exactly. That's what makes it right. and there's a friend with her.
I don't care. I think it's a fine idea. I don't care if you're right with this one.
I just want another Australia rivalry, all right? I'm trying.
We cut back to Zhang, and he's with his second in command dude, and they're in a limo, and he's basically like, right, we're proceeding with stage 2, and I want it on the day of the UN vote. And he's like, yeah,
but
regardless
of the results,
he's like, yeah, but that was just like a, if they don't go through with it, this is like punishment for Price. And he's like, well, no. See, he basically says, no, he needs to be slapped in the face. He challenged me. He dared challenge me. So now it happens either way.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that we've been going with stage 2 for a while now, and it seems so important. Whereas now I'm learning, oh, that was just a backup plan. That's just inconsequential almost.
Yeah, it also makes me think that stage 2 is like, obviously it tells us that Elliot's not as in control as he thought as well, because now Zhang's just like, oh, we're just going to do it.
Right, but also if they're just going to do it and it's like, okay, that was just as a now it's just a punishment. It's not actually the end goal.
Oh yeah, because they mentioned in this scene, the Congo. They want to move their project to the Congo.
Yeah, they want it annexed so that they can loosens up the laws and stuff so they can get in there.
And I think, it's maybe a bit more remote for their big particle accelerator or the supercomputer or whatever they're building.
Yeah. Although how you move something of that size will be interesting.
You just ship it in pieces. Simple enough.
But then you got to take it all apart. Kind of defeats the point, surely.
It was already in these big chunks. You put it on a big ship.
All right.
Easy.
All right. I'll allow it.
They want some privacy in the Congo. It's fine. But yeah, it's like, what is the end game? And we have all these weird theories about time travel and alternate realities and supercomputer predictions. But yeah, clearly that's what's important to him. Is that stage 2 is just no, screw him. Like,
yeah, stage 2 is almost irrelevant.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's not as. And again, that idea that Elliot thinks this is important, and he's trying to stop it because he doesn't want to be a terrorist. He wants to stop people from killing.
But how much is it actually going to help?
Yeah, so it's fascinating. But yeah, so then we get to. Actually, I think I skipped a scene. Actually, now I'm looking at what my next scene is. Where are we? Yeah. I forgot to mention at the end of the dog scene. So the idea that he won't be lonely anymore because he's got a dog. That fills that void just a little little bit. But the plot reason I wanted to bring that back up is because he goes over to his PC. We see that the FBI is watching his PC. They've basically just got like a desktop mirror. They can see what he's doing.
Yeah.
And he starts to run some programs, and I'm like, he's looking for a bug. Like, he's checking to see if something's there.
It's when he looks at the computer, he looks suspicious. And I'm like, how does he know? Is it, as Krista relayed what Mr. Robot said, and he's gone, and he's kind of putting it together that, okay, maybe he was talking about Darlene, maybe these are things that happened.
I don't even know if he needed that.
Or, no, that I was going to say, or is it just he's being suspicious and he's being Elliot?
I think it's just the way the Darlene scene ended, because he seemed to come back. He kind of woke up as she was yelling, "Oh, I'm getting away from me." What caused that confrontation? Maybe he's, curious. But he looks into it. But I think there's maybe a question to ask, like, is this even Elliot at this point? I'll get to why I said that in a second. So we go back to the safe house. Dom's going in. She's got some stuff. She's complaining that e-coin is now like one of the only things you can use at most places. She looks suspicious at the van across the street. There's like an electric work van. There's some guys doing.
It really highlights the van though, doesn't it? Like,
it does.
Way too much.
I'm not sure what you read into that at this point, in particular.
No, it was like I can't remember the name of the company. I was trying to think if it had anything.
I think it may just be like she's suspicious the Dark Army's watching. Maybe they'll found the safe house.
Yeah, I mean, white van is kind of very.
Yeah,
it's very typical, isn't it?
But no, she comes in and talks to the guy, and he plays a little prank on her, which I thought was amusing. He's like, "Oh, he gave us some great intel. We got a mic, we got some audio feed off of the bug. Here's what we heard." And he plays this. I can't remember the name of the song. It's the song that plays at the end of American Pie. But
yeah,
it's been 1 week since she looked at me. Blah blah blah. Whatever the song is. But she's like, "Oh, I'm going to have that in my head all day now, you asshole." Like, she's pissed at him. And he's like, oh, by the way, he sent an email last night, maybe to Tyrell, we don't know, but there was an attachment in it. And you see a close up of the email, and it's like .rar, and I'm like, that sneaky bastard, he's tracing them.
Yeah,
He's looking for them.
Immediately, it's like, oh, this is too easy.
Yeah, it is. And like minutes later, like, oh wait, someone's here, and you just see just the hoodie in the corner of the security
it's
camera.
like, that's enough.
That's enough to know it's probably him. I mean, they could misdirect us and it turns out to be someone else, but it's him. Yeah. And she's like, "Wait, did you open that file and run it?" It's like, "Yeah, that didn't really make any sense." Like, you idiot! Like, you are just like Dom's just like you're incompetent.
How are you part of the FBI? Do they not teach you not to open strange files?
Oh God! And so then she's like, "That wasn't for Tyrell. That file was for us." And the final shot of the episode is Elliot on the security camera. It's kind of, black and white, desaturated, and he's looking around, he's got his hood up. And again, very horror movie. It feels like, like he's here, like he's tracked him. It's also almost scary.
He's in the house.
Yeah, and that's where I went, which one is it right now? Like, is this Mr. Robot hunting them down? Or is this Elliot? And if it's Mr. Robot, maybe it's Mr. Robot who put the tracker in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
But if it's Elliot, then is he just
I think it's amazing that they'll both have completely different motivations as well. I think if it's Elliot, it'll just be a case of who's tracking me and why. If it's Mr. Robot, he'll probably be more aware. He'll probably have an inkling and be like, "No, I'm coming to show you a message, to prove that I'm not afraid of you."
I think what it does is like as much as they're watching, as much as all that, it's like. The fact that he traced this safe house and he's shown up here now to look is like, Elliot's still crazy powerful. Like, he gets near a computer, he is winning, like, whatever's going on.
It's true. I think, and they made a point of showing us that last episode with the the Hacker Olympics.
Yeah.
I mean, I think maybe this is Mr. Robot just based on the demeanor of the way he kind of strolls in and he kind of pushes his way in. It's not very Elliot, is it, to kind of just do that? He's very more subdued. Yeah, he's less confrontational.
It could be Mr. Robot, but then he'll switch to Elliot right before Dom has to talk to him, and it's like, oh wait.
I thought it was interesting, that the way he takes down the hood as well, like when he's inside.
Yeah, he takes down his hood right at the end. Yeah.
I do wonder if that's maybe supposed to be symbolic, because obviously Elliot always wears the hood, but Mr. Robot doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, I think he's taken it down before.
He has, but I mean, just in. This is like, this is a big moment. This is, the confrontation, and he's taken it down. He wants to be face to face. He wants to be seen. And that feels very un-Elliot, where he's always trying to hide. It's kind of the whole point of the hoodie, is he tries to hide.
Yeah. No, it's a great end to the episode. I think we're 2 episodes in, and I feel like they've both been top of the game, basically. We're questioning the death of Joanna a little bit, but other than
that aside, which is a lingering concern, but other than that, it's been excellent.
Not a concern.
It is to me.
It's not a concern. I mean, it's weird. It's a bit of a misstep, but like ultimately, if this is the misstep of the show, like this is what I complain about when
it's not that bad, and you look that way. But just when I look at it as an overall, as a show as a whole, I'm going, okay, but what was the point? If it doesn't come back up and have a purpose, what was the point of all that stuff in season 2 with her building her up? It feels like maybe that was wasted time then.
Oh, maybe it was, but that'd be more of a critique of season 2 than it would be this season.
It's just a critique of the show as a whole, rather than this season specifically.
She was damn scary at the time, though. It wasn't
It
wasn't like the time was spent going, oh, what's the point of this just now?
But it'd be more like, if I'm rewatching this in the future, and I'm looking at these when I'm getting to those Joanna scenes, and if this doesn't come up and this is the end of this story, I'll be there going, why am I watching this? What is this serving?
I just think concern's a strong word. I think concern implies that you're worried that there'll be more problems down the line, and I don't think that's fair here. I think this is the exception to the otherwise very confident show that seems to be nailing everything it wants to do. Yeah. So I wouldn't worry about it. That's my final word. I thought it was a great episode, though. Much like last episode, it was all great, but then there was like 1 or 2 really standout scenes that really just kind of like, okay, this was the main event of the episode.
Yeah, definitely, Mr. Robot coming out of that therapy and having that terrifying performance. That's a big moment.
I think what I'd really compliment it, and I was getting at this last week, is this new status quo. They reveal that he's working with Angela, and Elliot doesn't know. And then this week they reveal with Darlene, and it's almost horror movie-esque. Oh, the villain's here. It's not Elliot, it's him. It's dangerous now. And then the scene with Crystal when he comes out and he talks to her. I think I want to compliment the fact that that's 2 episodes in a row now where I'm not just enjoying what it's doing in terms of, oh, this is nice and tense, or it's nice and suspenseful, or whatever. The drama's good and it's working. But there's 2 episodes in a row where I've went, oh, this is a new idea. I really like this idea. Like, they're playing with this, and like the idea that Mr. Robot's now in the therapy scene talking to the therapist, that is a completely new thing. It feels like they keep finding ways. Esmail keeps finding ways to build on the ideas that he's already got. It's not like he just had one good idea and he's been milking it dry since. It keeps evolving. It keeps adding on to it. It keeps doing new things.
Here's a question. So, we mentioned how, okay, now we've seen Elliot as Mr. Robot, without seeing Christian Slater there.
Mm-hmm.
Do we get him pretend to be Mr. Robot? Do we have him try and bluff his way that he is Mr. Robot to try and get some information out of Angela or something?
I can see it with the Dark Army later on.
Yeah.
Maybe towards the end of the season I can see that. I also wonder, do we get the opposite? Do we get Mr. Robot pretending to be Elliot?
I think that would be interesting.
Because so far he's not, as soon as he's switched, he's made it obvious. So he's not trying to hide that he's changed. He has no interest in hiding it, seemingly.
I mean, you say that, I think, for the longest time in season 1 and season 2, he was pretending to be Elliot, because no one was reacting any differently. It's only since this split where
but he didn't have to, though, because people didn't see them as 2 people. Before it was just Elliot. It's only now that we have the public, but the knowledge between all the other main characters that there's 2 separate personalities, and they believe that, they know about it, that now he could fool them, because now they know they can be fooled, or there's something to fool them with.
Okay, I'm with you. Yeah.
Like before it was like, and even then, like as we said, like they were working in conjunction at times. It was both of them at certain points. They talked to each other. Whereas now they're completely separate. So now there is a case of like, could he fool Darlene into thinking it's Elliot when it's actually Mr. Robot manipulating things?
I think as well, like, so we've seen Elliot can let Mr. Robot come out at will. Can he force his way back in? Can he force that can Elliot take control of a situation? Can he be like, no, I'm coming back out now?
I feel like that's something that he will probably have to try at some point. Whether he succeeds or not, it will be another question.
Yeah.
But then again, like from everything we know about him, he's not really aware. It's like he just woke up again when he came back.
It's true. It's true.
So I think there'll have to be some developments in how, and it's already changed. The fact that they're separate now. And
it played a little bit with the the lucid dreaming thing last year. The mind awake, body asleep. So he could kind of watch what was going on, and that was a point where he was like, "No, I'm going to sleep, and I'm going to be aware." So could we get an extension of that, perhaps?
No, we could. Yeah. He followed the footsteps last season because of that.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, it could do that. I feel like it'll have to evolve before that happens, though, because as it is right now, it seems like
we're not there yet.
Yeah, as it is right now, he seems to just be completely gone and unaware that he's not in control.
Yeah, definitely.
No, that's episode 2, season 3 of Mr. Robot. Exciting stuff. Like I say, a lot of horror vibes. I think we talked about how the different seasons have different feelings to them. I think season 3, there's a lot more of a horror element to Mr. Robot, and
there is. It's playing up the suspense in a different way than before. Like it's playing up the threat.
Yes, very, very good. So, of course, let us know what you thought of the episode in the comments below. Like, subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. If you want to support the channel, head over to patreon.com/mailfuzztv. You can do that over there. Keep everything going. Keep more reviews coming. But otherwise, that is us. So thank you once again for watching. Keep watching TV. We'll see you next time. Have you got any vanilla?